Hello everybody, Maverick Mike. Now this is not my usual project, but we did some renovations in the house and we needed a nightstand. So we went down to Restore Kauai and found this nightstand over here. The problem with this nightstand is that it is too wide. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting this thing into thirds and getting rid of the center section and then making a river table out of the center section. So we've never done this before, so it's going to be interesting. Anyway, this is a classic old piece with some real Hawaiian on the front, and it's all handmade. Not sure what kind of wood it is, but if I had to guess, I would say that it looks like koa wood. And koa wood is only from Hawaii. It's a hardwood from Hawaii, and it's absolutely beautiful wood. So as you can see, we have quite a bit of work to do on this. So this is a father-daughter project, and we're going to get started on this. So glad that you're here with us for the journey. All right, here's an update. The major part of our deconstruction has already taken place. We've got this thing all cut up, and we did this because it was too deep before, and we didn't have enough room for this table. So we cut up this nightstand and we've collapsed it this way so that it's not as deep, and we're going to begin the process of putting this thing back together.
Thin like that?
Very thin. That's even too thick. That's good for a lot. Spread it all around the sides, everywhere. You want the glue bond to be as thin as possible. It's actually stronger when it's thinner. So brush it all around. Doesn't have to be pretty. Okay, get some on the sides, and then go right to this. Okay, don't worry about that. We'll put this back into the right shape. Okay, now start gluing this on. And I'll put this back together square. Alright, so this is what the nightstand looks like. After its initial sanding down, we went down to bare wood. And we're getting ready to do some routing. So as you can see, we have lines drawn on the wood here where we're going to be routing. And that's going to be the basic shape of the river. Alright, a bit of an update. This is a father-daughter project, and my daughter had to leave for a few months, so we're going to put this on hold. I am going to go ahead and do a few things and prep it so that we can store this thing. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you how it came out rough. As you can see, we have this river routed out in the table, and Emma just drew how she wanted it to look, and just routed it out. She did a really good job, and I think it was very interesting how she envisioned this, and I'm really proud of her because this is the first time she's used a router or any power tools, and she actually did really good. So let me zoom in a little bit on this. This is a view of the side and the top of the table. As you can see, she has like a stepped sandbar going deeper and deeper and deeper, and I thought it was pretty cool. And then she carried that all the way down the side so that there's waterfalls on either side of the table. So here's a view of a side waterfall, and we're going to end up putting rocks in here and shells and sand and other things that we got from our local beach and our local stream. So for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and clean it up. I'm going to put a temporary top on the table and then go ahead and throw a couple of coats of polyurethane on it, just so I can bring it in the house and protect it until my daughter gets back, and then we're going to go ahead and continue on with the project. So this is now the front view of our recovered nightstand, which we had to resize, including the drawer. And when we got this thing, it was all beaten up. I didn't even realize that it was Koa wood. Some artist at some point in time made this beautiful hand carving of banana leaves. And when I was working with it, I could really see the chisel marks. Some artist, I wish he had signed it or she signed it, because it's just a beautiful piece. But when I got it, it was covered in multiple coats of probably latex white paint. And I thought it was plastic at first. And after removing all those coats of white paint, this beautiful Koa wood nightstand that you see was revealed. So we're really happy to find this. We found this at a like a secondhand store, a thrift store, and I think we paid about $5 for this thing. So this is the side view of the river table. We're not done with this yet. When my daughter gets back a couple months from now, we're going to sand this thing down and do an epoxy pour. And this pour will contain various broken pieces of glass and river rocks and rocks from the yard and sand from our local beach. And I'm excited to see how it comes out and how she decides she wants it to look. Alright, so here's a close-up view of Hawaiian lava rocks, and as you can see, they're quite porous. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these things and just go ahead and dump them in. And I'm just going to let them sit for a while and let them gas. And then I'll take them out and let them dry. Side 2, and I applied a few lessons I learned from side 1. Mostly not to use quite as much putty. So, anyway, here we go. Pour number 2. Alright, we got some bubbles in here. Let's see if we can get the torch and try to remove some of these bubbles. Alright, several weeks have gone by, and all I did was spread this broken glass out and these rocks from our local river and the sand from our local beach out into the table, and now I'm just going to do our first pour here. I'm going to do this in multiple stages. So and I'm just making sure I try to lock everything into place so it doesn't move around. We have a few bubbles coming up. I definitely expected that. I'm going to let it come up a little more, and then I'm going to quickly run a torch over it and try to pop a few of these bubbles. Since this is supposed to be a fast-moving stream, I'm not too worried about having no bubbles. A few bubbles would actually be cool, but I definitely want to have the top coat, the finish coat on the very top, to have no bubbles in that. So, all right, so we're getting ready for pour number 2, and as I was looking at this thing, I didn't see a flow in the water, and being that this is a relatively shallow, supposed to be fast moving kind of a stream, I wanted to get the effect of flow. So I'm going to be trying to get the effect of flow by adding some of these other colored bits in here, kind of snaking it around a little bit to give it the idea that water is actually flowing. And I'm not going to mix the colors as much as I did on the bottom layer, just so that there's different, you can see a difference in the flow. So let's try this, see how it looks, and if it doesn't look good, then we'll just go ahead and take them all back up. Let's go ahead and do our second pour. Windy here. All right, let's go ahead and pour this thing. Bubbles coming up in here, so let's clean this up a little bit. All right, I think I'm going to leave it just like that and come back tomorrow and pour another. All right, as you can see, I have a little problem here. As I was pouring this, it began to rain, and the rain was blowing sideways through the carport. Raindrops were landing on the surface of the resin, and now the resin looks like it's the surface of the moon. It's cratered everywhere. So what I'm going to have to do is sand all this down and then do the fourth pour, which is not too bad. I was actually planning on doing a fourth pour anyway. However, now I actually have to do the sanding instead of just doing the pour. So we're going to go ahead and take care of this, bring it back down to a smooth surface, and then we'll do the fourth pour. All right, here we are a couple days later. Hopefully this will be the final pour on the top coat. So I've got this all cleaned up, sanded down, got my resin mixed, got the table leveled, and we're just gonna go ahead and start our pour. All right, let's move this around a little bit. So I'm not pressing down here. It's just the weight of the squeegee. I'm trying to be smooth. So that it evens out as nicely as possible. Okay, let's see if we got everything covered. Let's see if there's any areas, especially in the corners, need a little bit of fill. All right, let's chase down some of these bubbles with our propane torch. Alright, there's not too many bubbles coming up, which is a good thing, but I did seal the wood beforehand, so we shouldn't have that many bubbles coming up. Also, I didn't use a wooden stir stick, I used a metal stir stick to avoid introducing more air into the mix. I hope it finishes like that.
Yeah, mirror. Wow. That's beautiful, Mike.
Okay, this has been drying for a couple of days. We're going to go ahead and take this mold off right now. Alright, time to pull all the silicone off. Alright, now that we have this reasonably cleaned up, let's start with some fine sanding here. I'm finished with the sanding, so I'm planning on doing routing next, but I noticed this corner right here is separating a little bit from the wood. So what I'm going to have to do is do a repair with some super glue first, because when I route, I don't want that thing to just tear out. So we're going to try to secure it with super glue and see what happens. Alright, we're going to try and carefully lift this edge up just a little bit and get some super glue in there. Try to shove it under there with this razor and see if we can get a good bond. Okay. Put it down and put a bit of weight on it. Alright, as you can see, I put some paper down here just to keep the router from scratching up the top of the table. And time to route. I'm just going to go ahead and round the edges. just a little note here commemorating this father-daughter project. Love my daughter. For my dearly beloved daughter, I love you with all my heart. All right, we're going to start putting the finish coats on here. The project is coming to an end. I'm going to be using some water-based polyurethane clear to put on this, and we'll see how it comes out. I could put some resin on it, but I want to try this water-based polyurethane and finish it up that way if possible.